We are expecting a script by Friday.
For the weekend.
For the weekend. I'll see it on Thursday probably, just to be sure some things got in. And then Friday we'll have it.
This week we're really pushing hard on locations because next week we tech scout. Just want to let people know we're not afraid to scout Saturday morning if we have to. We're 5 weeks out. We got to make up some ground.
Storyboard update. We have just gone through the London Eye, which will have, I'm sure, more discussions based on VisFX and what's happening there. We have the board separated from the surfer, very close to being completed, which Tim and I will go over today, hopefully. We are 95% done with Act 3, which is being edited and kind of trimmed right now and finished off, so we should have that fairly soon. The Silver Surfer has had some, it's done, but it needs work now based on notes coming back from the studio, so we have to actually dig back into that and do some trimming and a few adjustments.
All right.
We're obviously onto the Julian dates, which is still, I think, one of our biggest problems. And
The problem is he's in a TV series, and even the Entertainment Weekly this week, it says how they're going back to the core values of this TV series and putting those guys in more and more. So I think we're going to be forced to confront the
In the second
availability.
week,
So I'm dealing with his agent.
In 2 days. With
Hutch is dealing with the FX network, but I don't know how much we're going to get.
All right. Thank you all.
You want to do the perimeter first, or you want to do the cold part first? Cold.
With all the ice is collecting on the ceiling.
Okay, up to the fourth. No, second. Okay. That way you don't have
watch the floor, guys. It's going to be real slippery.
Tim,
There's so much nicer.
It's great. I think this is one of the craziest places I've ever been.
What about coldest?
This is like.
Okay, why are we standing We gotta get out of here. Panic sets in.
Which way is out?
Panic sets in, we die.
Panic is setting in.
watch your back, Scott.
This is crazy. Never gonna happen, right, Lee?
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen. All right.
Cameras will be frozen.
Never gonna happen.
Goes, there it goes.
Yes, it goes.
Goes.
My, look at my glass. Look at my glass. I can't see you. Oh my
man.
God. What are we thinking?
What do you think? Let's shoot it, man.
Oh, 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 oh my God. Oh. All right, that was kind of like
That was a good idea, huh?
that was like idiot move.
I had to see the third floor. They said there's nice icicles.
How nice they're Canadian icicles. Oh my God.
How would you ever
It's like
The one thing,
that's why nobody shot it.
the one thing that was worth it in there though is that whole dry ice look.
Yeah,
That
that's
whole,
cool.
That's very cool.
That
we
is
can have fun with that. Whatever we do.
Well, we'll call this research. Research.
Research.
Yeah, we're gonna fake it.
Yeah, we'll fake this.
Here's the situation. We have two different animals. Too many, two animals here. We have one where we've got him in the ring and we're flying him, hopefully, which we're talking with Scott here about. And then we have a situation where he's on a rig and we're moving the camera to him, which is, in green, right? So those are the two things we're working with. Then we have the pedestal with the cranes, and we're cranes going by each other. So we're trying to find all the situations that would work for different shots, outside of CG, that we can deliver on that thing. And part of it is if we can get the physicality of the surfer, so it's always dynamic.
Yeah.
And for the bank.
And also defying gravity a little bit to the point of it too, when possible. You know what I'm saying? This is like one of the first few tests of what the surfer might look like in some of the shots. It's kind of us capturing body movements and all this other kind of stuff so that we can do our CG thing to it.
Rig is ready. Stumps are ready. Okay, let's go hot. Hot at 100%. Rehearsing at 3, 2, 1, go.
This is going to serve as our Baxter building. Last time we did a bridge sequence, and we ended up surrounding the bridge sequence by a blue screen, green screen, which allowed us to put in New York behind it. So what we've done is we found like a location in Vancouver that's surrounded by buildings so that we can shoot the scene, the entire scene, without putting in the buildings.
You are here, the wedding rooftop. What you're looking at over here is the Baxter building. We'll be going up to the second line with real facade. There'll be scaffolding behind it. There'll be distance behind it so we can, if we need to, we can talk about blue screen or extension or any kind of green screen things. There'll be a staircase with a frontage coming off of it, a facade work coming down onto this deck. We're extending it to the extension here, which will be all walled in. This will all be peripheral walls. We're going to be putting down a turf, artificial turf on the deck. We're going to be putting a lot of plants and everything. We're right in the middle of a pergola, probably 11 foot to the arch, 18 to 20 feet to the top of the dome. And that's your playground. Welcome to Doom's Place. This is a lab. We've got a chair that is actually on a gimbal so that it will face here if you want it, and it will rotate into monitors that are hanging above here and as a part of the chair itself. There's a lot of GAC, a lot of as technical stuff, Eastern Bloc, kind of old technology. There's some older parts that have been here before, some newer parts that are additions, and he cues it all up. He walks in and everything on command cues up, and there's all the things going on in the world. The reverse is that, theoretically. And then we'll be using 2 other sections of the house to tell the other tale of the story.
We last saw Julian like this, right? Is it this with the face and he's just doing it, or is he finished all of this? Yeah, I think he's in a cloth with, you know, and he's done all of this so far, and he's just left with the face, you know.
That's cool.
Especially if you make the cloth like kind of a,
Like a
not a
mummy
white,
kind of
but
thing.
like a real.
Yeah, but then you can get
Give it
away
some-
with it,
give
and
it
then
some
it could be
texture.
just the last thing he does is the face.
Basically, we're taking advantage of this whole street. A lot of this is about lights, signs, and an environment where at the end of the sequence, a piece of the Fantastic Car will collide with some of the walls around here and crash land on this street. Right where we're standing is going to be a big pagoda. Basically finding a place that's going to turn this place to look like this. All right, what it is a place where Sue and inevitably the Silver Surfer, Doom, can have their last moments before Doom goes off and Johnny becomes Super Johnny.
So Johnny is down there and Doom's close. When he comes back, he just comes straight back to here rather than too much up and down.
Gotcha.
We'll go up, we'll come down, and then we'll just be all here. That'll make it easier.
Plus, are you going to have like, we still have to figure out what we're doing for the end of the world, whether.
Do you want fireballs?
I mean, there's a thing
We
of
love
you
them.
want some type of explosion. You want fire, you want to just happen it's like every time you set
You're
up something,
singing
you
to the
say,
choir.
every time you want something to happen, you just say, okay, blow that, you know. So we'll I think we should offer it up. This is the main lap. This is kind of where I got a little bit of the inspiration from the Ultimate Fan Force series. It's big. It's bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah,
Which is good.
nice.
That's Reed's physics lab.
Yep.
That's the screen.
So this is,
48
what do
foot
we
screen.
see on this?
We got a roof or the screen.
Yeah.
Well, the screen you can see everything from all the space information to
Right.
to your screensaver of fish and the aquamarine.
And how are we, is that back projection? Is that
Yes,
back
yes.
projection?
Back projection.
Okay.
These were the paint options that you saw earlier.
Right.
And I think Fernando said you were leaning towards this one, the darker. And then
Well, it depends. I mean, I actually like where this is. Now we're trying to figure out the right color because of the Surfer, which
Right.
we got to be careful of because I know we're afraid of 2 silver guys, but if the Surfer is tarnished and he's that color or whatever he is, we got to remember we're also going to be putting an effect over this because it's kind of like they switch.
Right,
You know what
so
I'm
he'll
saying?
have a
Because
bit
you've
of a
got-
sheen on him.
Yeah, he'll have a bit, or you'll have white coming out of, these cracks and stuff
Right.
like that.
The energy leaking
Yeah,
out.
you have the energy leaking out. Maybe when he speaks, this will white out or something. Who knows? So that's, everybody's running away from that, but to a certain degree, I mean, this is the color you want. I finally got a rider coming up here, Don Payne. Be here Friday morning. Today's Wednesday, which is so important in the production phase of it all because every day something changes. Every day I go to a location, I tweak the action because you get to a location and sometimes there's limitations that the location offers or has, and then there's also sometimes opportunities that the location offers, so that you're constantly tweaking the stuff, but you have to get that on paper because now you're at the point where you've got a couple hundred people that their only clue to what's going on in this movie is the script. I think I'm literally 3 weeks out. We still got a long way to go. A lot of this is
And the meeting.
in the meeting.
Yeah.
So
My name in the list, but I
there's
wasn't
more
sure
things
how many-
here. Like
how many.
this is dudes where his all his screens and all that stuff will be, and it'll look more like that
Oh, very cool.
inside of this. So that's the actual location where we're doing it.
Okay.
And then you got that kind of stuff above it.
Now, is it supposed to be a palace or is it supposed to be a warehouse?
It's supposed. Well, there's another. This isn't the room. That's a room. That's the
So
room
it's a
in
set.
here.
I see. This is like.
But
this
then
is
you've
where
got
it's
you've got a warehouse where
Okay, gotcha.
all that goes, which is another room
Okay.
inside this place.
Right.
So next let's talk about the goals real quick.
So the big scenes are the London Eye, the wedding. Anything else we need to get like
Well,
the
the
next
third,
24 hours?
the flying car sequence, we
Yes.
have total boards for that.
Oh, cool! I'd love to see those.
So we're gonna go through that with EJ. So we got that thing, and then we also have what he wants to do for the entire third act. So
Yeah.
I think the big thing that's gonna happen, which you might even go over, you can start going over with EJ.
I'd love to, yeah.
Immediately, and then any big things, any problems you have, hopefully I can be there by then.
Sure.
But he can kind of walk you through what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So
would love
really, he should walk through all of that with you. That's the flying car third act. So it's
Okay.
like four sequences. So basically, what you can do now is we'll take you to EJ
Okay.
and let him start walking. You know what? I got a few minutes before this conference call.
Okay. Let me grab a screw.
You got it.
And when it starts coming to beam you, you're going to do a carve towards it. So you come over here and kind of hold for a beat, and it's going to dive at you. And then
As he's coming around here, you're gonna straighten out.
give it correct, yeah. And then as it comes swooping, go into your ballistic position.
All right, so I'm a little bit in.
All right. So just lining up on him. So Josh, say when you're happy, so you happy? All right, here we go. Rehearsing. 100%. And now! And cut it. Over there, thank you.
You know, on an arm, we can do this, and we can do that, and we can do that.
Right.
That's
but
it.
we can't do that.
What we can't do is like, you know, if I'm talking to him here,
Can't do that on and off. Why are you talking to? Can't do that.
And then goes
Yeah.
like this.
I
Even
can't
as
do that
even
on,
like
you know,
even when
the
he's
crank.
talking to Sue and they're kind of having that moment.
Yeah.
Instead of him coming in like this, he
Yeah.
goes like this. You know, like
right,
that,
that's what I'm
as
saying. Yeah,
opposed
he
to-
can't.
yeah,
We
that's
can't
pretty
do
cool.
that on the arm, which is another. This is like, come to, like listen, young lady, and then just hold him there. That like for a second, and then bring him back. Yeah, with it. You know that I can't do on the arm. Look.
Yeah.
I mean, like that we can't do with an arm. You know what I mean, Mike? That's like, that's so cool. Do it again.
Yeah. Watch.
And then he goes back. Whoa!
No, that's cool.
Tell me about that little bit again.
No, that I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah.
awesome.
Now, how do we get it up the top of the mountain?
Good? Shoot. You ready?
Today was about wardrobe tests, makeup tests, hair tests, a couple of effect shots so that we can see what the power switching is going to look like. Ready to shoot?
Yeah.
All right, let's shoot that. Okay, roll camera. Quiet, please.
Chris, could you make it more?
Put the rope on.
Could you do it faster? Yes. Thank you. I guess it's the best day so far because you actually see your cast and been able to say hello and just kind of warm each other up to starting this whole adventure.
And we've cut.
And keep it just for the wide shot back there, you know?
Look at that. And I can do this. Roll camera, please. Set and action.
You. That's how I'm gonna do it on the day too.
One more time.
So.
Ready? Yes. And
Yeah, you get it.
action. Okay, ready? Yeah, ready, set, and action. Look at your hands.
I'm invisible.
Flame on!
This is for the power switch test. We've done some still artwork and so forth, but we want to actually photograph the actors so the effects houses can try some things and experiment and establish a look that both Tim and the studio like.
We'll do one more time. This time, guys, just do a little bit subtler on the powers. You know, yeah, just a little bit more subtle. Action. That cool, Scott?
Yeah, that's fine.
And cut.
Welcome to Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. That's the title of the movie. The studio prefers that we call it the Rise of the Silver Surfer as opposed to Fantastic Four 2. Just so you know, that's the way that it'll be referred to in the press and the way people want to talk about it. This is Ross and I. This is our fourth movie up here, our second movie in Canada, and we're happy up here. This is great. You guys are terrific, and a lot of us have worked together before, and I think that's a nice shorthand that we can have together, which is great.
Essentially, as we all know, we're going to start tomorrow in the Chan Centre. We're starting in the disco. We are having a rehearsal this afternoon. We are hoping to be there with Johan, which is the key really to this location. Johan, Chris, and Michael, whose birthday it is today, Michael Chiklis, who's coming in for a rehearsal. And we'll go through, you know, the moves and sort of obviously get ourselves set up for first thing tomorrow morning.
I guess the last thing that I have, be sure we try to have some fun. You know, that's why we got in the business. That's why we want to do this, right? And I know it gets tense, but our names are on the film, so let's try to have some fun.
On the detail.
So we want you to kind of lead, because we want you to land first.
Okay.
And then Chris, and then Johan. But it's just a step, you know, just so you.
Yeah, I got it.
And we're only going up until you start to walk to the girls.
Okay.
As soon as you start to walk and kind of get out of frame, we're cut.
Groovy, baby.
Yeah, I want everybody to be friends, but you don't have any.
What about no balcony?
Right. None that I want to party with.
Johnny, we had a deal.
Not exotic dancers.
And cut.
Johnny, we had a deal.
Like that.
Not exotic dancers.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, good deal.
Good. Check the gate.
Good. Turn on the air conditioner.
Look at his face. He's sweating. He's in a t-shirt. Do the math.
Did you go back the other way now?
Like more of a rotation.
No, flip it right over. Suck the air on.
Counter. I'll clockwise it.
Yeah. Can you go counter?
I can counter it.
Thanks.
Do you prefer that?
Yeah, it's better than the other way, just something weird about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catches up with you.
Yeah.
Something about it.
I understand that.
Yeah, I know.
Are you left-handed?
Yeah. Well, except when I use my right.
Right.
This is going to be very tricky because originally it was a much tighter fitting clothing. And now it's very loose. And so trying to match motion, especially with wrinkles and things, is going to be an exciting prospect.
cut!
Burning it out?
That was hot.
8:30 crew
That
call.
is a silver announcer.
8:30. That's a winner.
Well done.
Hey guys, so crew call tomorrow is 8:30.
End of the first day. Nobody sleeps the night before the first day of the shoot, so I'm absolutely shattered. And looking forward to my first large vodka martini. So cheers.
1 out of 1 seems to be kind of on. I feel good, but you know, it's like 1 of 80, 85 or whatever it is. So we got a ways to go. See how I feel in about 60 days.
It's day 8 of unknown shooting days. The movie comes out in June. As long as we're done shooting by then, it's all good. Give a couple days to do the VFX and we're fine. But we're shooting British pub today. A very authentic British pub. Very quiet, please. Working quietly and efficiently.
What I meant to say was that it's nice to have somebody.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got us, pal.
Very nice. Thank God.
Yes,
God.
Very
nice guy. Lily is always working hard at work, figuring out schedules, and it amazes me how much he works. Even when we're not shooting, he's just constantly working at schedules and trying to figure out what the next shot is and how he can help me best. You never see him sit down. It's kind of weird. It kind of makes me feel bad because I'm sitting down and he doesn't. But he's just the best. Always a hard worker and just constantly working. I mean, I'm sure right now I don't even know where he is. He's probably out in the set fixing something he's not supposed to, But that's just the kind of guy he is. He's the best I know. Hey, Lee.
Hi, Tim.
We run a thin wire down the inside. The darts follow down the middle. We fire it down the wire.
Right here. Yeah, he's here. So he goes like that, and we fire. Yeah.
But then you can get the flaming dart down the wire, hits the board, the whole place on fire.
Yeah, I think that was just a perfect way. Better.
Quiet, guys.
And action.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, I panicked.
What we've done is we've created a lab that parallels Reed Richards' lab. And so we show that Dr. Doom is just as much of a scientist or brilliant mind as Reed Richards.
It took us about 6 weeks to build everything, but we only had 3 days to put it in. And so we had to prefabricate everything in this whole facility. It was available on a Sunday. We're shooting it on a Wednesday, and we're going to strike it by Friday. 1, 2, 3, we're in, we're out, and we get the key components of Doom's enterprise.
His character in the first movie, was more of a business tycoon kind of thing where, he was kind of more concerned about his public appearance. And in this one, he doesn't care. He's basically out to get power. He is a supervillain. He's out to kill the Fantastic Four. He's out to take over the world. And he doesn't apologize for anything. His appearance, nothing.
I think this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. What do you think?
Pretty cool.
This cat right there, he's a bit dodgy, but he's smoking.
Whoa. Like encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia, yeah, there you go.
Yo.
How you doing?
What's up, Tim? Tim, you know Julian?
No, I'm Tim.
Hey,
Julian,
how are you?
nice to meet you.
Who gets in the back seat?
That's Ben.
That's Ben. Here, let me light up the IP for you on the front.
This is too.
Let's see.
Now that's without the monitors on. I don't have any feed for the monitors, but those are all the monitors.
That's freaky.
Right? Yeah.
How do you get up on this thing?
Huh?
How do you get in?
Well, you're gonna get you just have a step here. You step on the body, put your hand here. And
you can put your feet on the body?
Yeah. Like that. Yeah, you just put a piece of foam over
box. Give me a
You want to get on?
Yeah, I want to get on.
You want to get in?
Sticky.
Get in.
Sticky.
You get in the front. Hey, Charlie, get him that apple box and the piece of foam.
Come here, Travis.
Pen size, right?
Oh, yeah. Give me the...
You guys got the time?
Just don't push on the glass. And
Not
then
on
what
the
you do
glass.
is just step right into the seat.
Hey, Tim, I gotta go, bro.
Okay, man.
See you later.
Hi, Jules.
I'll see you on Saturday.
In a week.
Okay.
Okay, buddy.
Be good.
Really nice to meet you. We'll see you around.
So if you need me, just call me.
Yeah. Let's go. I've turned on all the buttons. I've turned on enough lights, so it should go now.
It should go now.
Should it? No? Freaking awesome, man. I like lights. Just make everything light up.
Yeah, I mean, when these monitors are going,
Make it all freaking
it's
light
awesome.
up.
I mean, all this crap and this stuff.
One of the more fun shots to do, this is a power transfer, so what we have to do is put Sue on fire for the first time. We put tracking markers all across her, similar to how you would do it in the motion capture session, and we'll be doing rotamation and actually creating a 3D body that follows exactly her rotations, her motions, her hand gestures, all the rest of it. Most of what we'll take from the plate, aside from that, is we'll take her face, of course, take her hands, and we'll use that, we'll mix that in when we do the flame effect. We'll basically take Jessica, all her motion will be flaming, we'll have wind interacting, and then we'll put the glass back in on top, and it'll look like she's hanging there in front of the New York skyline, which will pop right behind.
So I burn the glass like this, and then they move me down a little bit, and I'll move my arm like this.
Wire work is fun because it elevates the movie to a fantasy world, and that's, you know, the fun of making movies is sometimes we get to do big fantasy comic book movies, and doing wire work allows you to do that. It's not very comfortable though.
Just relax. Calm down.
Yeah.
Tim asked me to find a place where we could actually have Doom and the Surfer first meet. It had to be something that was kind of unworldly and definitely not feel like we were in some of the other locations. So we needed a really distant location that looked, you know, awesome. This iceberg we're sitting on is actually moving. It's moved 90 degrees in 2 days, so we're on a giant life raft. You can feel the wind coming up, the catabolic wind that actually comes down from glaciers. And the warm air is on top, the cold air starts rushing down here, so by the end of the afternoon, it's howling here. So we've got to watch that the grifflons and all this stuff doesn't fly around.
Can you understand what I'm saying?
Cut.
Got it?
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. You good, Josh?
You gotta get the 120.
This is the wedding, the all-famous wedding of Sue Storm and Sir Reed Richards. So this is our Baxter Building set. Basically, we turned a parking lot into a Baxter Building balcony. Today we have all of our Fan 4, of course, and we also have Stan Lee in the house, the creator of the Fan 4. So we're doing that whole thing and doing a little scene with him in a second.
I have a whole line to say, and then I have 2 words to say after the line. I don't want you to worry about the competition, but I'm getting up
Don't
there.
steal my stuff, Stan. Don't steal it.
Hey, you
my
were,
thunder.
you were so good at it.
Oh,
I mean,
stop.
the personality that you had, the exuberance, and it really, the movie came to life every time you were on the screen.
Sweet.
Yeah,
No
I'm
idea
true.
with that.
Tell you the truth. You were great.
Stop. You just made my day.
After this, you probably go legit someday and do some real good stuff.
Stop it.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I just have your attention for a moment? I just want to introduce you all to the legendary Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man, X-Men, and of course the Fantastic Four and many others. Stan is here to grace us with his presence today. Ladies and gentlemen, Stan Lee.
Thank you for coming to my wedding. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, this is great.
It's lovely, Stan.
Hey, yo,
Good to see you. Kept us employed for many years, Stan, so...
Exactly.
And action!
Invitation, sir. Oh, I should be on that list. Name? Stanley.
Right, buddy.
Oh, no, really.
Let's go.
I am Stanley.
Let's go.
No, but you don't understand.
Cut!
I can't thank you.
Oh, you kidding?
You're making me a star. And you, Lee, you're great.
Bless you, Stan.
Now, how
See
the
you
hell
soon.
do I get out of here?
Coming down. Watch out, guys.
It's Thinglander.
Sure looks so beautiful. I mean, when you can see it.
Hey guys,
Such a lovely wedding. Thank you. I gotta go clean up.
Wait. Action!
And this time at the end of that, Jess, this time it goes up, and then I want you to watch it go that way, because what happens is it hits and the tail comes over this way to go at Alicia. So just the way our schedule is, we did all of our character pieces, and now we're into most of the action for the next 3 weeks. We're doing the wedding this week. Next week we do, or even the end of this week we do London Eye. We're a third of the way through the shoot. I feel like a strong drink is needed.
All right, here we go. Shooting. Let's start the word.
We're in the middle of the wedding crash. It's an exciting setup because we have this huge amount of track on the roof, and we have a helicopter which is rigged with pneumatics to run all the way down towards the front, blow a crazy amount of chairs up, cause a huge amount of disaster. Obviously, we're trying to get as much of it practical as possible because, you know, we have an interaction between all the crowd of stunt people we have here and the helicopter coming in proper. So what we have to do, obviously, is we've got to create computer-generated rotors on the top. So, you know, the blades are coming out, which is 36-foot blades you actually couldn't have here.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
Much better. That's what we want.
These chairs are all, there's a pneumatic rig underneath them, so we have air piped in underneath the floor, and then they go in rows, so as the chopper blades would get to each row of chairs, we set off each row of chairs.
That's okay. That's all right. Good, beauty.
Set and action.
Oh my God.
It's a cut.
Oh, whoa, 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 oh my God.
Oh my God! Come on! We just said this is serious!
You better be able to fix this.
I'm gonna work right away.
Fireball, bomb.
Ben, stop it.
Hey, get to see why you like that.
And you want to sit. Oh my God! Come on! We just said this is serious.
That's funny, yeah.
You better be able to fix this. I'm gonna go to work right away.
We just gained a gag there, mate.
That was it.
Yeah, that's it.
That was what I was. Hey,
That's it.
That was
No,
it.
That's
Well,
all
you
about
made
it.
it.
All right, so what do
That's
we?
it.
Where we go? Where we go from here?
That's killer. Okay.
good work, team. Good work, guys.
No, but you played that brilliantly. You made it
I
out
had
of
to clean
nothing.
play from that. I'll give you the cue for. I'll just say fan, which is the surfer.
Yeah. But as soon as she started to notice, I started bouncing it up.
Okay.
Almost there.
You heard?
Guys, we have a problem. He's here.
3, 2, 1, action!
And that's the cup right there.
He's crouching, so let's just bring him in higher. So the crouch.
Yeah, see, he really went.
You know.
So he coming higher.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, action!
And we're going up.
Crane.
And out.
And he turns it into dust. And cut.
Tail slate.
We'll do
Tail
one more of
slating.
those.
Crane. Out.
Michael Chiklis on set. Coat of the Bear on the set. WWFF4 SmackDown live. Bear's out. Here he comes, Coat of the Bear. He's big. Big as a Volkswagen, they say. I'd say he's kind of like a Jeep, Wagoneer. He's doing good work. We're concerned about Michael, though.
Now I make a sexy time with the bear.
It's gonna be a rumble in the jungle.
I am 20 feet away from a Kodiak.
What do you think about that?
Oh my God. Something unnatural about this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I wanted to be an actor. What are you looking at?
Go on, good boy.
I gotta tell you, I never thought I'd end up in a scene with a 10-foot, 1,600-pound Kodiak bear. High diddly-dee in actor's life for me. I can't believe I'm actually doing this, especially dressed like this, where he might mistake me for an oversized salmon. It's actually working out really well. Now, I understand why people want to go and pet them, but you really, really shouldn't, because that doesn't work out too well. Well, it does for the bear, but not for the petter.
Yes, sir.
All those tents should be down there.
Right now we're in Shanghai. We've got about a week left in production. We got lights and smoke and a bunch of Chinese extras and big explosions and wind.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! Looking, guys, still looking, still looking. Got it?
One more get-up last day of main unit. Unbelievably relieved, tired, but, you know, in a satisfied kind of way. It's always a great feeling when you finish up the movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our illustrious producer Ralph Winter with us tonight. On behalf of all the crew, if I speak for all of us, we'd like to thank Ralph for everything he's done for us and for having most of us for many, many years.
Who's that? Lee, who are you talking about?
We all know there can't be a finer producer than this man here. Ralph Winter.
Start Wolverine on Monday. All right.
We got a lot of work to do. You guys are terrific. We like coming up here. I enjoy every one of you. It's a lot of fun, and everybody works hard. So last day, everyone's prepared to go long and go hard, and we have a great movie that's going to perform even better than the first one. So thank you very much. All right, thank you.
Okay, let's stand by for rehearsal.
Let's go for it. All right, let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's get it.
This is our big end sequence. It's amazing. It looks incredible. And I take all the credit.
Yes,
So
as
I
she
just
should.
want to say thank you
Because
for
I'll only be
being
looking at
here
Jessica.
in my presence. Oh wait, Tim. Oh wait, and Tim for Tim's presence.
It's all about there. It's all, let me create the frame. It's
But-
all about that.
We're tired. We want to go home.
Yes, we really do. We're done. Into the world.
We're
Hurry up
delirious.
and come. That's a cut. Ah! Wait till we say wrap.
And soon maybe preggers.
Preggers later. Little baby that can like blow up stuff.
It's midnight, and we've got 4.5 hours to shoot the whole last sequence of the movie. The producers are on set saying there's no more money left, so we have to finish tonight. See, they even pulled the plug on us already. But no, we'll see. We'll see. Let's keep positive, and let's hope we get out of here tonight, because I really, really don't want to come back here on Friday.
It has been a long journey. It really has. It hasn't, though. It feels like it's gone by incredibly fast. And there's the lights. I feel like we just got here. I feel like we never even left. I have no idea where I am in time and space. It could be 7 in the morning, it could be noon, it could be April, it could be September. It'll be nice to relax a little bit after this. And if all things go as planned, we'll be back up here in another year and a half. So here's hoping.
Roll cameras!
Make it movies, baby. Make it movies.
We have literally 4 more shots to go, and it has started to snow. It just started about an hour ago, and it hasn't let up. So we are trying to figure out what we're going to do. Do we stay here another day, knowing everybody has plans to go home and be with their loved ones, including myself? So, stress out time.
We don't have many choices. It's our last night. Not coming back tomorrow. Actually, I have a team of 60-some people coming in to strike this set in the morning in about 4 hours. So rather than abandon ship entirely, we're going to try to condense the scene into 2 shots, maybe 3 now. And so in the snow and light rain here, we're getting the crew to work and set up, and we're going to wait.
Okay, actors go get warm. Clear the set.
It stopped snowing with enough time for us to shoot the last scene of the movie. So we're happy. It's all good. It's funny how things happen. You just sat here and waited it out, and here we are, done. We're finished, and that is a wrap on Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. We get started in post immediately, and hopefully we finish it in time for it to be in the theaters. Get on a plane, going to see my little girls.
In the original sort of comic book, you know, especially from the 60s, it's the Fantastic Car was basically sort of a platform, almost of like a flying platform for them. So we have to bring that up to a contemporary era.
In the beginning, talking with Tim, he had specific ideas of what he wanted and wanted it to be relatable to the cartoon, and that's why it has the turbines on the bottom and why it breaks apart. And the difference in this is that it breaks apart in 3 pieces instead of 4. A lot of times I draw from nature when I'm conceptualizing a design. The Fantastic Car, in working in the early stages with Tim on it, I ended up looking at manta rays and stingrays, and that's hence the shape of the shallow section and a waist and midsection. One of the coolest part of the process is the initial process after the concept is done and the design is bought off and Tim's happy with it. We go to TFX and go to Charlie Zarian, who's brilliant at working these things out and bringing them to reality.
This is a layout project where we're at. These are just the major tasks that we're to perform, and this gives our day. It's a regular Gantt chart, keeps flow, and then different machines have different colors to keep track of what goes on with machine what day. And this is a general breakout of the vehicle, so everyone understands what we're building. We drop screen dumps out of the different CAD systems for everyone we have several CAD drivers working different systems and CAM drivers. We run CAD software for design, we use Alias and a couple other programs. And then for CAM, we use different cutting packages for different processes. But we have to communicate with the guys on the floor, the guys who drive too, what's happening. So we drop these screen dumps and break down the model to all the different pieces. Every piece is displayed here in some form so we can see it, like the acrylic windshields, what they're made of, where they go, so everyone understands the model, so when it's time to put the windshields in, they know where they are. This project's laid out as a snap kit. Ultimately, all these big pieces are machined under control, and when they come out of the molds, they just snap right together. This is what I use for project management. I do configuration control for the vehicle here. As each feature is completed, I add it in. When the upper surfaces are completed, then I'll bring them in, and then I'll export them out for everyone to use, so that way it's consistent across the model that what I've exported is what we're going to build. I take all these pieces, bring them in. Sometimes I have to patch a few pieces in, work on things. I just keep track of what's happening with the model. When someone has a change they're looking at putting in the model, then they'll submit the change to me as a digital model. I'll bring it in, look at it, make sure it fits within the program, and then add it in.
That same model that we produce digitally also goes into the movie as a digital artifact so that they can seamlessly blend the actual model that we produce and the digital model, which is going to be moving around through the screen. So this is an 8th scale model of the Fantastic Car. This was produced right after the buy-off on the digital model that we produced from the artist renderings. This is used for the producer and the artist to buy off on the surfaces, interior parts, everything else. Everything that's produced here is an exact copy scale model of what's going to be on the full-size vehicle. You can even see the bottom of the vehicle has all the turbines, cutouts, venting, and everything else that's going to be on the full-size vehicle. So these are our engineering offices. We got a total of 3 people up here. Previously, when the TFX made Batman, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, they had tremendous crews, 50, 60, 70 people. Everything was handmade. It was very labor intensive. But now with the digital technologies, we can have just a few people upstairs designing, moving stuff around, doing everything in the computer, and sending the data down to our machines to have molds cut. And we know everything's going to fit together right the first time because everything was designed in the computer.
I'm actually currently working on the center console. We're going to be printing these parts out. This one has been a challenge just because of the sheer size of the project. And there's so many different components. There's so many people working on it. There's so many components that are being changed on it because, you know, it's a design, it's an artist's conception of what the fantastic car should be. And that, you know, based on the production, based on the actors, sometimes can change. So it has been a challenge, but you know, I'm fortunate enough to have these two geniuses over here helping me out with it. And everything's coming out okay so far.
Currently designing the taillights. It's kind of one of the small add-ons for the vehicle. Just designing it based on manufacturability and aesthetics, being able to get a design that's easy and quick to make. In turn, I'll take this and bring it into some CAD software, which is this software here that I'll use to put the tool paths on them, and that's what we export out to the machines so that they can produce the parts in various different mediums that we use for final parts.
This is what the foam looks like right when it comes off the mill. It's got tiny little tool marks on there. We'll come back and we'll sand it until it's smooth, seal it with an epoxy resin, and then lay parts directly on that.
They're going to set the face coat down right now. With the important part, they're all prepping at the same time because a large tool like this on a warm day, they have to time it so that all the face coat kicks off at the same time. So they mix it all at the same time, and bang, it has to go out. And as soon as the two face coats are done, the next shift comes in 25 minutes. Then they take over and work about 6 hours to laminate this piece. So when we come in the morning, it'll all be done. And we'll just take this, work it out of here, bring the next set in, and it's a constant cycle every day. So when we go into production cycle, this is, I'd say in the old days, this probably took us a few months to do, and we do it in a matter of 2 weeks, the whole thing.
On board, it's got 17 working monitors that are going to play feedback for all the different functions that it does and systems checks.
We're gonna have to split up! What?
This ought to be fun.
Mechanically, when it breaks apart, there's sections that spread. Like along here, this coach joint here spreads, comes out, and becomes a wing. And the turbine is exposed, and all the mechanics underneath that are exposed. All the coach joints along the side are in, which you'll see underneath the bottom, are all there for wings to deploy out when it splits apart, and for canopies to fold under for the midsection and rear section. The seating arrangement, we have 4-point harness racing seats in each cockpit, and then when we get to the rear, we get to Ben Grimm's cockpit, and everything's completely oversized. His joysticks to operate his section are gigantic, and his seat is twice as wide as the other 3 seats, and deep too. So it's custom fit for the thing. All the buttons are oversized for his big fingers.
Of course I'm driving it. These guys are just recording my movements so that when we need to duplicate exactly what I did whilst I was driving it, you know, for the CGI special effects camera, and put it afterwards, they knew exactly what I did. What's sending the signal?
These are just electric. These are potentiometers, basically. The electrical signal then goes off to the computer, and the computer tells the rams where to be. So each one of those corresponds to one of those hydraulic rams in the rig.
Right.
And it's an exact miniature of.
And this is actually doing something. Is it all?
It's really electrical.
It's electrical rather than.
This is an electrical model of that.
Right.
So those potentiometers are telling. They know where they are. And so if you do that, those 2 rams will do exactly the same.
So it didn't have to be like this, or it's just that.
It's the easiest way of doing it.
Visual.
Yeah.
Well. That's amazing.
And action, left hand turn, and turn.
Well, I want one. Let's start with that, because this is like, for a boy, you know, sign me up for that sucker, because it flies and it breaks up into pieces. You know, if there's 3 sections so that we can all sort of go our separate way. And I mean, it's so many bells and whistles on that thing. It's incredible. It's insane. It's not normal.
Yeah. Get in, Allison. Get in. Yeah.
I wish I could get in the car.
This is so cool, Mike. All right. Just another G. All right, and we're out.
Going into it, we knew how popular the Silver Surfer was and is. We know you only get to make the first impression once, and we knew it was very important that we pull off the Silver Surfer, that we satisfy the fans and also create new fans. And you know, that's a fine line. So the first thing we did as a studio with Tim Story and with Marvel, we knew the Kirby poses were very popular and were the iconic images that everyone seems to know. And we kind of accumulated all the poses, all the drawings and artwork of Silver Surfer, and Marvel, gave us a bunch of stuff, and not just Kirby's, but we put it up in a room, one of our big rooms here at Fox, and we all came in and said, we like this, we like this. So very quickly we got on the same page that we wanted the Surfer to hit these iconic poses, and so a lot of effort went in on the prep and on how we were going to do it, how it was going to look. Visual effects, it advances almost daily. Most of the facilities work with basically the same software packages, but they all enhance it for what they want it to do. One of the things on this movie that we wanted to achieve, Tim Story wanted to always to be able to direct the Silver Surfer on the set, and which he did with Doug Jones. And he also then got to direct him in post. Through the process that Weta used, we were able to take Doug's performance, basically remove the physical performance from the plate and put in the CG Surfer using Doug's performance as the reference to drive the Surfer. Just a couple of years ago, you'd have to do motion capture. You could do it, but we wouldn't have been able to do it as quickly and as effectively as we did on Fan 4. I've had past experience with Weta. They have an enormous amount of experience of doing photoreal CG characters with limited schedule. They did an enormous amount of work for us on iRobot. Gollum and King Kong were absolutely photoreal CG characters. And the distance doesn't matter anymore. Them being in New Zealand and us being here doesn't matter anymore. So we wanted to go to the place that we thought that could give us the best creative flexibility that we wanted in the schedule we had, and they were the perfect fit. What we would do with Weta is we had our high-res monitors set up right in editorial. So Tim Story is there, the editor's there, the visual effects team's there. Every day at 2 o'clock, we would have a conference call with Weta. Now, 2 o'clock is 9 a.m. the next day in New Zealand. What Weta would do is, when they finished their day, they would post their files, and we would have someone come in very early before the main production team started, and they would download the files. Those files would then be given to editorial, the visual effects editor, and Danny would then take those files, cut them into the current cut, because the cut's always changing. We would repost that back to Weta, and then someone on Weta's end would come in before their team started, download that for them, so that by the time their 9 a.m., our 2 p.m., our conference call, we both had the same cut, and you could control it on either end of the monitor. And then we also had a side video feed that we could see each other. And the process works real well. So we would have this conference call with Weta. We'd give them all the notes, and they would do their work, and then that night we'd go home to bed and they'd still finish their work day, and the next morning we'd do it all over again. And then when, to final the shot, we would look at it and say, great, go to film now. Because you always want to see what it looks like, what your final release is going to be. The process worked great. Before we actually started filming, we literally had a guy go out in a parking lot, and we filmed him in the makeup that we had on set, and just to see what we had to work with and how we could deal with it. And so Weta was already, before we were shooting, they were already working on how we could create this look. And one of the first challenges we had with the Surfer, should we make him a mirror image? Should we make him a brushed chrome image, or a shiny chrome, or an aluminum look, or because we of course went to the mirror finish right off the bat, and that poses all kinds of issues for not only just visual effects but a storytelling point with Tim. The Surfer doesn't speak much, so we had to show expression through his face. And if he's reflecting his environment 100% like a mirror, we couldn't see anything. One of the first shots we were testing in the trailer, and it's also in the film, it's the chase sequence when the Torch is chasing the Surfer through the tunnel, where he turns upside down and you push into his face. That's the first time you really get a good look at the Surfer. Well, of course, the first thing that we do in visual effects is we make it exactly perfect mathematically and for the environment and how it really would be if he was that shiny in that tunnel. Well, his face looked like Vegas. It looked like all these brake lights blinking and headlights blinking and the lights of the tunnel flying by, and you push into his face, and it was so distracting. So very early on, we set up controls so we could actually control the level of shininess and reflectivity shot by shot. And if you look at particular environments, nighttime in outer space, you can see he has that hue of outer space into him. If you took that shot, the tunnel shot, an exterior daylight shot, an exterior night shot, and put them all next to each other, you would actually notice variations in the levels that we played with to help you be able to see what we wanted you to see with the Surfer.
Can we talk?
I think we were very effective going from the real actors to our we call them digital doubles, digi-doubles. That scene where the Surfer turns around and grabs Chris, we shot that on set with Doug and Chris. So we had the physical interaction to either use or not use, or at the least have for reference. And so when the Surfer's grabbing Johnny's neck, that's Doug's hand, grabbing and putting the indentations and all of that. So we already had the physical interaction. So it was very easy for us when we had to remove Doug's arm and replace it with the CG arm. His performance already put that physical interaction there. Then as we go up, we transition to a CG Johnny, but then you come back around for the reverse again, and it is Chris Evans. And then when he throws him away again, we go back to a CG Johnny again. So I think we were also very successful at marrying multiple platforms with the digi-doubles and the actors. The shot of the Surfer coming up and walking forward on his board, that was one of the things that very early on too, when we were testing movements and how we wanted him to move, we didn't want him to be locked into the surfboard like a snowboarder locks into a snowboard. We wanted him to be alive on the surfboard, and that's one of the first times in the movie when he comes up and he literally walks forward on the board. You realize that we set up in the movie, maybe the power comes from the board, but he's still controlling that board, that it is an extension of him. But I think it's a whole different thing in seeing someone locked to an object or walking on it. One of the other things we tried to achieve was the level of manipulation we could do with his muscles. When Doom zaps him and you actually see the muscles on his back ripple, well, that's all put in CG, and we built the model to that level so we could literally control the muscles. And I think that's why people buy that the Surfer is real, because we went to that level of detail and you believe it's in our world. And that was one of the first big hurdles we wanted to tackle, is that we wanted to create this alien being that you actually believed could exist in our world. We tried to base it in the real world, and I think the Surfer, we were very effective at doing that. The Silver Surfer in the movie is 100% CG. Now that doesn't You know, I don't want anyone to misinterpret that Doug Jones didn't give a performance for the Silver Surfer, because he absolutely did. We wanted the Silver Surfer to be superhuman, and that in itself, you want it to be more than what a human can do. We would see Doug's performance, and it was, you know, a great performance, and we either would match it exactly using his performance to drive the CG character, or we would then take it just the extra step that you can't do when you're on wires and you're on rigs. The Tarnished Surfer is 100% Doug's performance. We didn't have to do any performance manipulation at all. We did do CG enhancement. We always had to do the eyes, because we didn't want it to look like you could just stick contacts in. And you know, we were going for this look that there was a life and a power source within. And if you look carefully, you'll always see like this white hot pin light that you may mistake for a reflection, but it's not. We purposefully did that. And then we would do the normal CG enhancement that we several times have to do in films when we're using prosthetic makeup and things like that around the mouth and the nose, and you know, just little normal things. But performance-wise, that performance is 100% Doug. The Galactus sequence at the end of the movie, we had no physical performance for, because that was something that, as we were creating the film, we realized we need a confrontation between Galactus and the Surfer. We felt that if the Surfer just left Earth and Galactus followed him, you'd feel cheated. You'd feel that there's got to be something more. So that was actually something that was created after we finished shooting principal photography. So we didn't have the reference performance. When I was mentioning earlier that Tim got the opportunity to direct the Silver Surfer again in post, that's the classic example that we weren't bound creatively by any idea. It's because of how we set up the Silver Surfer and how we were able to manipulate the CG character. When that idea was being developed as a visual effects department, we said, yes, absolutely, we can do that. We can pull that off. And if you look at the performance of the CG character, I think, you know, it's flawless. We even did several versions of the timing of when the power leaves the Surfer body, and if you look very closely, you know, he puts his hands out and then at the last seconds just opens his fingers and tilts his head back. That was a nuance that we worked on quite a bit to just get the timing perfectly, because, you know, the first version he'd come up and just do this. Well, that's not that dramatic. So it was like Tim saying, take two. The London Eye was a particularly difficult sequence because just Reed's powers, you know, Reed's power, the stretching power is very difficult to make look real, because very quickly it goes into rubber, especially when he's wrapping around the London Eye to hold it up. Well, you only have one elbow and you only have one wrist. But yet we wanted his arms to curve around all these spokes. It was very difficult to try to get that believable and real without it becoming too cartoony. And one of the things that helps is the power switch. Now we're bringing a real element into the shot. So we all know what fire looks like now. We may not know what it looks like racing along an arm that's stretched past what we can do. There were a lot of things there we had to deal with. There was a digital miniature London Eye. There were background plates. There were green screen elements. There were CG set extensions. The water, of course, we had to deal with. So we had all of these elements, and then of course we had the power switch. So Silver Surfer was in that sequence. So we had almost every element you could think of that we had to deal with in this movie. In the last movie, you know, the visual effects team already figured out what the Torch looked like, already figured out what Reed looked like. Well, now we had to figure out, what does Reed look like as the Torch? We didn't want him to look just like Johnny because he can't really control the fire yet. You know, that's why, you know, his flame welding may not be as perfect as what it would be for Johnny. And you know, if you notice, again, you talked about subtle things earlier. When Reed flies in, he's a little awkward. You know, that's on purpose, by the way. That's not a mistake. He can't control himself. You know, Johnny can zip anywhere, but all those little things that give it just that extra bit of believability, because Reed is uncomfortable now being the Torch. And the same thing when Sue became the Torch, when she flies up in front of the building. She's going crazy and she's flopping all over the place. And you know, if you look again closely, the flames are a little different. Her movement is different. She looks very chaotic. She's out of control, again, on purpose. just because you see a great final image of the Silver Surfer, the amount of detail you have to pay attention to is enormous because you are building something from the ground up. And the pressure on this film, I think, even though I've done it before, there was a little bit more because we were dealing with such an iconic character and we had one chance to pull it off. Now after the fact, it's just great to see that all the hard work that everyone did has paid off. Our goals going into it was to introduce a new character, and from what I've seen on the internet and the response I've seen and heard from people that have seen the movie, I think we achieved that. The one thing that is invisible to everyone that sees movies is the massive amount of people it takes to pull this off, and I would say that by the end of the film, there were probably 500 to 600 digital artists working on this movie at several different companies, and the fact that the creative continuity is as consistent as it is throughout the film, I think is a huge feather in the cap to the visual effects team. And that's what's fun, is getting to look back now and take my kids to it, and there's the Silver Surfer, and now we'll see where we go with him from here.
The Thing suit has evolved to a point where I'm completely happy with it at this point in time. My philosophy going into it was that it would seem sort of anticlimactic to present the exact same thing that we had in the first film this time out. I think overall the film has a richer tone, so we wanted to sort of stay with that sensibility and create the Thing as a crisper, sharper version of the first thing that we created. When we were first designing the first suit, the way it was explained to us was that the physical presence of Ben Grimm as the Thing in the movie would be the real version, and that the comic book version would be the sort of the anecdotal version. So that if you saw the Thing walking down the street, you'd look at him and then you'd go tell your friends, I saw this huge rock guy walking down the street. He was 9 feet tall and 7 feet wide, and he weighed 6 tons. So that's kind of the story that evolves from the real character. If you look at the original drawings that Jack Kirby did of the Thing, he really wasn't that big, and he didn't really have the big, bold characteristics that the newer versions of the Thing have. So we were instructed, and we went in a direction that was closer to the original rendering. In the first film, there's a moment in time where Ben has to decide whether to remain as a human or change back into the Thing to save the other 3 members of the team. So he makes the decision to get back into the machine and become the Thing again. And one of the first lines he says as he returns as the Thing is, "It's clobbering time." So we felt that it would be a great opportunity to enhance the look of the Thing at that point in time. So we came up with some designs to show the executives and the director of a sort of uber Thing that was like the next stage of evolution of what we had created for the first part of the film. Sorry. And everybody loved it. They thought, this is great. We enhanced the brow a little bit, we made the lips a little bit bigger, and his shoulders were a little broader, and he looked more like the new Thing. And we were about to do it, and then at the last moment, it was decided that we should stick with the suit that had been successful up to that point. And so for this new version, we did take all of those elements and we incorporated them into the new design. In addition to enhancing his look a little bit, we also created a suit that was more comfortable, a little bit lighter, and could breathe a little better than the first suit, because one of the issues that Michael Chiklis had with the first version, never having worn a creature suit before, this was his first time out, he wore the suit for probably between 45 and 50 shooting days. That's a huge undertaking for someone who's never been in a creature suit before. He was not comfortable in that suit. One of our main goals was to create a suit that he was more comfortable wearing, and that he could wear for several shooting days without it becoming too big of a problem. And we got there by several means. We created an undersuit which had an open cell structure, which means that it could breathe better, it was lighter, and then the outer skin actually has deeper cracks, so we could create areas where you could go from the outside skin into that open cell structure to allow it to breathe a little better and for moisture to evaporate.
heat to dissipate a little bit better. It looks better on the screen. It just has a much cleaner, sharper feel to it. If I had to use an analogy, I would say that the first thing was a little soft on the focus, and this one has the sharpest, cleanest focus you can get. It's a little truer to what, to me, is you know, an iconic version of the thing.
It's like my favorite thing in the world. This is when they glue my face and eyes. You gotta watch this, because I know you're gonna feel envious, because I don't know why anybody wouldn't wanna do this on a daily basis for 5 months, because, you know, and it makes you look so attractive too, especially the big chiclet teeth. Ow. That aren't mine, see? So I'm just getting so used to me looking really beautiful on the chair every day. I'm really looking handsome and feeling really good about myself right about now. Oh, this is when he puts, yeah, this is the best part. Check it out. This is when they nearly poke me in the eye with glue-filled Q-tips. But they don't,
because we're professionals.
Yes, and they're very good at it.
Comfy?
This is Wendy.
Ow.
Ow. And, well, we don't want to talk about him. That's Bart, otherwise known as Barticus. The first time that we did this thing, it took 5.5 hours to put on.
Did it really?
The very first time.
The test of this one?
Yes. Then we got it down to, at your blazing fastest, it was 2 hours and 50 minutes.
5 hours?
15? 50, 5-0. Fastest we got it down to. And now,
Hour 45.
get out of here. It's such a lie.
2:15 with the body suit.
Lie. And now, we're down to like an hour 15. But this is the process I go through every day to become the thing.
It's your 41st time on the show.
Is that all?
Yep.
Really? Is that it? God, it feels like...
We're not counting tests, just since we start shooting.
Still, that doesn't seem like much. He puts glue inside my mouth.
Get a close up of that.
On his lip.
Inside my mouth. Inside my lip. He argues with me about it, but it's my lip, so I'm right. Here, watch.
It's my glue.
That's where it has to go. Inside the... I close my mouth, it's inside it, then that's inside. On a positive note, it does look really good when it's all done, doesn't it? And it does bring this curmudgeon-y, great character of the thing to life. So, at the end of the day, when I go to the movie theater with my kids and we look up at the big screen and see the thing up there, that's when it becomes worth it. During it, very difficult. As you can see, just very little glue used in this process.
It's not on your skin. Look at this.
Oh, but just hang on a minute.
This is on the bit.
Yes, just hang on a minute. Here we go.
Well, there is some on your skin.
Just hang on. Wait a minute. We have a witness here. Here's the witness. And
that's it. That's good.
No,
From
yes.
my side.
Keep going. Do what you normally do. Ah, yes. Yes, this is hospital-grade adhesive. And here's when the forehead comes into place. The ever-loving brow.
Lovely look all comes together.
And here I go, becoming once and for all.
Curmudgeon.
Glues the thing. Yes, glue it to my eyes. Yes. Oh, stick it to me.
Coming around.
I love it. Pretty good today, guys.
Very fast.
Yes, moving very
along.
Breakneck pace. I can take my teeth out now, right? This is the part I love. Wow. Oh, yeah. so glad.
One day I won't be feeling well, and I'll do that, and then I'll have
And just evoke.
it. Yeah.
Here's a good luck when I smile with my teeth in this mask. Yeah, that's pretty. And for a lot of you who might be wondering, because a lot of people seem to think this, but it's not true. My voice is in no way augmented electronically in this movie. The Thing voice comes right out of me, just like this. So, no special effects. Good.
All right.
Set.
There you go. Sure.
And
See you down there.
voila.
Ta-da.
Thinglander. Come and watch this frickin' show. Oh! Oh, Mickey. Oh! Wow. Caught me with my pants down. Hey. I'm telling you.
Here, there you go. Oh.
This is really compromising, I have to say.
I was just gonna hold it while you. Okay. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I am horrified. God bless you. God bless you. Don't let it happen to you. See, this is the lighter suit, the newly improved suit, which is much cooler and it breathes. Whereas when you see me in the hero suit that's all made of this, it doesn't breathe at all, and it's excruciatingly hot. I mean, this is still very warm. It's still very hot, especially when we're indoors like this, but there's no comparison. At least, you know, if they blow a fan on me, I can feel the air come right through it, and that's a huge difference.
We are tucking in, right?
I think so.
Are
Don't
we?
you? I don't know. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think it's a semi-formal occasion. Sharp is slim waist.
Stop it. It's not funny.
This t-shirt makes you look so thin.
Flatterer. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome, Tiki.
Yeah, that makes it, these make it really easy to get around in. And there you have it. And now the thing, all nice and cute with clothing. So turn that thing off.
213.
A good score is, when you take it away from the movie, you should feel like it's telling a story on its own almost. If you can do that, and with today's films it's sometimes difficult with the way they're cut, but if you can try to tell a musical story along with the visual story, then the story itself will be even more clarified and propelled and more dramatic. A lot of the themes that were set up in the first film, of course, are revisited because it's a sequel, and so it's always nice to keep a sort of continuity between the two movies to sort of keep the world of the movie, the familiarity with the first film intact. And then the biggest departure for this movie is the new character, which is the Silver Surfer. He sort of brings a little, sort of a more serious tone to the film, a little more weight. He's a more weighty character with a lot of background, which we don't know. So the music had to sort of convey there's a history to this character. We don't know what the history is, but every time he's on screen, there has to be sort of something we sense about him. So I would say he's got a sort of a deeper, more introspective, psychological theme than the other characters, because he's more mysterious than the others. There's a lot we don't know about him. It's fun when you do a sequel because, again, these little seedlings you planted in the first movie, you try to expand upon them if you possibly can. And there's one of the themes in the first movie, and this one is the love theme between Mr. Fantastic and Sue. And again, it has its little moments, and it's almost frustrating because I want to create like a 2 or 3 minute piece out of the thing because it's never able to have its big moment in the movie. But I was able to vary it up a little bit and go a little richer with it in this film, and to try to make it evolve as much as I can. But it still never has the big moment it wants to have. The musicians have the music for about 5 seconds before they perform it. Basically, it's bring up this cue, they put it on their stand and they play. And it's all sight reading, and that's why they're so amazing. We go through the cue many times, and we suss out the problems, and we balance it, and there's always mistakes in the copying from the part where I write the music to the parts that they have on the stand. There's errors that occur, and so you get 2 minutes of score recorded about every hour you are recording. It might have been a mistake. It's 71. Something sounded wrong. And I don't know if everyone got the instruction with the slurring, the la da da dee da, because people were not doing it. I think in the bones.
Just confirming trombones and horns, 71 to 73, where we made the change to the 8th note. We make those 2 slurred phrases together, 71 and 73, should be nice and connected.
What makes working musicians in Los Angeles really unique is that they can take changes at a very rapid rate. Many a time in the age of Avid and digital editing, changes will happen so quickly that I'll literally just have to dictate them on the podium, and they have to kind of write them in.
73 and 75 horns, B3 and 4. Let's bring those down the octaves.
You can't really do that anywhere else but in this town with this kind of talent pool and the kind of tenacity and patience they all have. And there's no rehearsal, really. They just sight read it right away, and it's incredible.
Every time I write a batch of music, 3 or 4 pieces of music, then I'll come in and show Tim a synthesized, rendering of the cues with picture. And then he makes his comments, and I'll go make adjustments and so forth. That's the way it's pretty much done today. Is unlike in the past, you would just say, well, you tinkle on a piano, it'll be something like this, and you come to the stage, it's like, well, here it is. Today, because the accelerated post-production, you can't afford to have people go, oh, what's this? The first time they hear it, because you've got the film's coming out a week later. So what you do is these completely detailed, synthesized renderings of how it's going to sound exactly. So it helps the director know what he's going to get, so he doesn't have to even come to the sessions half the time, because there's so many other things you got to be worrying about.
I used to love to lecture at colleges. I've probably done more of that than any man alive. I've been to every school in America, probably twice at least. Anyhow, I would talk to the guys, and I would speak for a few minutes, then I'd open it up to questions and answers. That's what I love, because then you're really talking to people. I would get more questions about the Silver Surfer, especially from the brightest people in the audience. Somehow they'd be interested in the philosophy and the message and why he spoke that way and how I felt about him and blah, blah, blah. Wherever I went, and man, I got a kick out of that.
The Surfer's popularity really came from the fact that he was the outsider, trapped on Earth, and he allowed us to hold up a mirror to a lot of what was going on at the time, to take a look at the things that were wrong with society, that were wrong in the world. And I think that's a classic science fiction trope. You can always address what's going on outside your window a lot more easily with a guy who rides a silver surfboard than you can with flesh and blood people.
The Surfer has never been choosy, he's been more of a cult character. Within that universe, certain people respond. And so he was a fascinating character to begin with, because in the beginning he was he was completely cold and learning about humanity, and then he makes this phenomenal sacrifice. He sacrifices everything, all this power, the entire universe, to help these people. So he becomes a fallen angel, he becomes Jesus. Any metaphor you want to throw toward it, it'll work, The
great thing that Marvel did was find a way to talk to people who were older about comics, to give them more adult relationships and so on and so forth. They really caught the college audience. That was their first thing. They were able to do stuff that the Superman and Batman and the more traditional heroes had not done. They had really never grown out of this ghetto of childhood that they were stuck in. And Marvel opened up a whole new universe.
The Surfer was an interesting character in the fact that he had have almost limitless potential, but the character is only as good as what is being done with it by the writer and the artist team that has it. I was a kid when the Silver Surfer first appeared. He was an incredible character, a noble creature himself. He was working for, a very hungry giant who was going to do in Earth. It was an incredible story.
We were doing a Fantastic Four story, and I wanted Galactus to be the villain. I was very proud of the Galactus that I had dreamed up, I said to Jack, make him the biggest guy you can draw. He's a demigod. Make him look like a demigod. He's a guy who destroys planets. And he doesn't do it because he's cruel, it's because he's hungry. He eats their energy. So he goes through the galaxy, or maybe through the universe, finding planets that have enough energy to sustain him. I thought I was a genius with this idea. So I got the artwork, and there was some nut on a flying surfboard running around. I hadn't told Jack anything about that. I said, who's that? He said, well, I figure anybody who's as big and powerful as you say Galactus should be, he shouldn't have to go and search for planets to eat by himself. He ought to have somebody, a herald, who goes ahead and does it. And that was all. I mean, to Jack, he was a herald. He was going to find planets, and he only had them in a few panels.
The first time I can remember seeing the original Surfer material, the stuff that Jack and Stan did in FF 48 through 50, they were all my brother's comics. And, I was 4 or 5 maybe, and we sort of would paw through that box every once in a while when my brother wasn't looking. And I can remember those issues in particular always kind of weirded me out because the Kirby artwork was always, kind of grotesque to my 5-year-old eyes. But it was a grotesque that you couldn't look away from. So I kept going back to those issues, even though, they probably gave me nightmares the night thereafter.
I always found Galactus's and the Silver Surfer's relationship really kind of strange. Here was this rather honorable and downright noble creature floating around in space on this surfboard and looking terrific, but what he was basically doing was bringing the devil and destruction to wherever he went. He was an immediate hit. Everybody just loved his character.
I said, this is so unique and so original, and I liked the way Jack drew him because he looked so heroic and so noble, more than heroic. There was a nobility to him. And then I decided I want to use him in a lot of stories. And what I want to do is have him really be my voice. I want him to say all the things that maybe I've been thinking of for years, like, we live in the greatest planet in the world. There's enough food for everybody. We have sunshine. We have enough water, beautiful fields. Everybody should be happy living on Earth. It's paradise. And yet, are we crazy? We fight each other. We hate each other. We tear the place up. But what is the matter with us? Are we an insane race? So I wanted the Silver Surfer to mouth all those kind of thoughts, as if somebody coming from a rational world were to see all the nutty, irrational things that human beings do.
Well, at the time that the Surfer was created, things like Gilgamesh were very popular, the epic poem. People were setting off into countercultural tracks the surfer fit right into that. The surfer was a saint who could come in and do commentary on the insanity of our own society. And Stan was pretty good at doing some, you know, very basic level philosophical storylines along those ways.
I think the 60s was obviously a time of great upheaval culturally and in the society. And because the surfer was an outsider, because he hadn't, you know, bought into the system to some extent, he could see the inequities of racism, of you know, class wars. And I think Stan really held him up as an example of what we could be without all of the baggage that we had at the time. I think he was embraced by the counterculture to a certain extent because he didn't have any of the baggage. He wasn't he wasn't a tool of the man.
This was 1965 when he first appeared, and so we were just going into the whole Beatles, Vietnam thing, and a sort of alien being who didn't belong on this planet was a popular concept, caught a lot of people's attention. There were a number of blacklight posters that were produced at that time featuring the Marvel characters, but the Surfer is probably the most iconic. And again, because he was a silver guy in the blackness of space, he looked great under blacklight, you know? And I would venture to say there wasn't a college dorm in the country that didn't have a Silver Surfer poster in there somewhere. He was an icon. As I say, the comic itself never really kind of sustained that at the time. But he was there. Joe Satriani, who was a Bay Area guitar rock and roll guy, one of the covers of his albums had a Silver Surfer piece of art on it. I mean, it was a pop culture phenomenon.
You know, this is a guy who had Stan's soapbox on the bullpen page. So here it was, and the first issues were double-sized 44-page stories. So it was a 44-page Stan soapbox, essentially. You know, he got to like talk about whatever was on his mind and do it in this wonderfully melodramatic but truly heartfelt. Stan at his best was always so from the heart. You know, and that's why I love that character and why I love those books so much.
I really thought of him as a little bit Christ-like, you know, with what we know about Christ. And he really cared about things and about mankind and about everything. I tried to make him the goodest character I could and also the most misunderstood.
Initially, the Surfer went about his business dispassionately as he had done everywhere else. But he comes into contact with the Fantastic Four, and he comes into contact with Alicia Masters and is exposed to their humanity. And that exposure changes him somewhat. That exposure makes him see the worth of humanity and eventually leads to him rebelling against his master, Galactus.
Basically, they were his bridge to people of Earth. They were the first folks that he was actually in contact with, and sort of set his tone to how he was going to deal with Earth people after that. He met the best and then started working his way down the ladder from there. As I recall, they did a little story bit with the Thing and the Silver Surfer having a squabble over Alice Master, this blind sculptor that the Thing had a thing for. I think that was really kind of minor in the book, and then they went on from there. But it was nice, fun 1960s comics. But they didn't know quite what to do with him afterwards, because he was this cosmic character that they sort of had set down on Earth and wouldn't let him do anything. And he was like that for close to a decade afterwards.
I think when the Surfer came back into FF, really less than a year later from his initial appearance, and they got involved with Doom trying to steal his powers. You know, that really brought into focus what the Surfer could be and played him against the classic FF villain in Dr. Doom.
This was one of the high points of Jack and Stan's career on the Fantastic Four. They did over 100 issues of this book, so it's hard to pick any one that was the best, but this was one of the best, this particular story arc.
At some point, I liked the Silver Surfer so much, I wanted to give him his own series. Well, Jack was too busy. Jack would have been the ideal guy. But luckily, John Buscema was available. John Buscema, to me, is the closest thing the comic field ever had to Michelangelo.
His layouts were very, very simple, almost sketchy, and yet every single line, you didn't need to see the rest of it because you looked at the line and you could see the rest of the drawing. I mean, he was a brilliant draftsman.
He said, sure, he'd love to do the Silver Surfer. The series had a nice consistency as far as the artwork went, and I wrote them all. They were the best I could do, and I loved that series.
Jack's was blocky. He was a very cubistic artist. They say Jack never erased anything. The first time he went down, that was it. John Buscema, on the other hand, created this very graceful and regal, noble-looking creature that was floating around on a surfboard in space or in the sky, and you just were incredibly impressed by the visual of it alone.
With John Buscema, he played with the origin, and he really took what he loves to call the Christ on a surfboard aspect of it and brought it to the forefront. Well, a lot of people out there are going to get the Christ on a surfboard thing and roll their eyes and want to walk away. But me, I'm like, yeah, Christ on a surfboard. You know, I love the philosophical aspects of the character. I love the sort of Lord Byron poses and the long speeches. You know, it reminds me of Rod Serling. He'd always have these characters giving these wonderful, long, outraged speeches about humanity. You know, no one had done anything quite like what Stan did with the Surfer then.
Up until that point, John Buscema had been doing little jobs here and there at Marvel and really hadn't gotten something he could sink his teeth into, and they gave him the Silver Surfer. It was just incredible. He was able to do all the things that he was like hinting at in these other books, like he'd been doing some Avengers or something like that. And then he did this Silver Surfer book. It was just this incredibly beautiful book. It was the best looking book Marvel was putting out at that time. You know, Stan ran off on his little stories, but it was basically John who just showed everybody how you should draw the Silver Surfer.
The Surfer that Stan and John Buscema did, I think, to me anyway, had a real different tone and texture to what Stan and Jack did in FF. And I think one of the reasons is because the Surfer was suddenly, you know, he was a main character. He was the star of the show, not just a supporting player. And I think that really allowed Stan in particular to get into him as a character and really dig into his head. He was a mirror for us, and especially for the time. You know, you're talking about the late 60s and early 70s, obviously a great deal of upheaval in the culture. And John Buscema brought a real grace and fluidity to the Surfer that I don't think Jack Kirby captured as well, because Jack's stuff was really about power, you know, superheroes that really jumped off the page at you, whereas John's stuff was maybe finer in some ways and really fit the tone of the stories that Stan was doing at the time.
They're not the same character. One was a cold alien learning about humanity, and the other was a human, essentially. He was from the planet Zenn-La, but he was a passionate human. So it really was different.
John Buscema's Surfer was a lot more fluid and a lot more graceful than Jack's Surfer. I love both of them, and I think they're both appropriate depictions of the Surfer, but I think because of the lengthy run that John had on the book when it was a solo title, I think that's the Surfer that a lot of people really see in their minds. Jack did the Surfer as a guest star in FF more often than not, and he really looked a lot more alien when Jack drew him. I think when John got a hold of him, he made him a little bit more like us.
Stan did have a nice one last run on it with an artist, a French artist named Mobius, which is also, you know, one of the high points of the visual history of this character.
Oh, Mobius! Somehow at a meeting I said to him, how would you like to do the Silver Surfer? And he amazed me, surprised me. He said, yeah, I'd love to. Well, he doesn't get that emotional. He probably said, yes, I would like to. But that was good enough for me. I really think, much as I love the Surfer, I think the story that I did with Mobius was my favorite Surfer story, because that one, to me, really had a message. I was amazed. I loved that story, and the way Mobius drew it, of course, was different than any Marvel artist could have done it. He had his own style, a magnificent style, and oh yeah, that, of all the stories I've written, that's got to go right up at the top of my all-time favorites.
Later on, they put him in a book called The Defenders, which didn't sell all that well, even though it had the Hulk and Submariner and other characters in it. It wasn't until, like I said, about a decade later, when they decided they were going to let him off the Earth and let different people other than Stan write it, that it actually started selling very well.
I didn't want anybody to write the Surfer but me. And for a long time, I was the only guy who put the words in Norrin Radd's mouth. But I couldn't hold on to them forever, and, you know, had to let other people write them. I'm sure they did a wonderful job. I couldn't get myself to read the stories. I could not get myself to read Silver Surfer stories that other people wrote, because I wouldn't care if Shakespeare had written them. I'd have been disappointed.
Well, the Silver Surfer had been around for about 20 years by this point. He had been created in 1965, and this was about 1985. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it was about 20 years before we got to this point. And in that 20 years, there had been the Stan Lee, John Buscema series. There had been a couple of other one-shots. There had been guest star appearances, but he had never really been able to sell comics. People loved him, but he didn't sell until this series came along. When I started writing and I started reading up on space for the first time, I mean, really, and grokking the concept of just how far it is between things, and how what's in between them is basically emptiness and darkness, and you know, there's light from some sources and so forth, but basically you're on the largest black stage ever. And that was a consciousness that nobody else had, and really appealed to me for that, you know, for that purpose. I mean, not only was it getting old, not only was it really old that he was stuck on Earth, but also there was so much he could do once he got off Earth. I mean, he's a space guy, and all the stuff about meeting the various entities of space that Marvel had created, it was all right there once you could actually get at it. To my mind, he was sort of an average guy. I mean, possibly with more heroic grandeur somewhere in there, but he wasn't some special person necessarily. He was just somebody who stood up to Galactus and said, if you don't eat everybody on my planet, I will do whatever you want. Then he was sent out into space to travel alone and stop dealing with people. I wanted to explore him. I mean, again, Silver Surfer is limited by nature, and exploring that limitation was interesting to me, but again, because he's limited, there's only so much exploration you can do on that regard. So I was much more interested over time in space, in where he could go, in what it would be like to live in space and what he could find in the Marvel space when he could go out there. And I was able to connect all these different entities into one coherent universe. And that was the fun part for me, I think. So that book sold. I mean, I think that was the key, that we all liked him. We all thought he was a great guy, but until he could really do everything that he could do, you couldn't really get everything out of him that you could. And people really responded to that Silver Surfer run.
When I started off was just to bring back Thanos, believe it or not, and which I did, which led into the Infinity Gauntlet. So the Silver Surfer and Infinity Gauntlet were basically almost the same book for the most part. In fact, for the most time, they had the same artist, a guy named Ron Lim.
Ron Lim his stuff is more cartoony in a sense, but that's not a pejorative in comic book terms. It just means that he's having a little more fun with the, playing with the art. Ron was able to really make it sort of more fun, I think. Really give it more pizzazz.
Ron always gave me pretty much what I envisioned. He and I were very much on the same wavelength. I mean, there would have been some things I would have changed in positioning the characters, but Ron wanted to tell the story that I wanted to tell, and he was always right on the money with what he was doing with it. A very underrated artist. After we had moved on from that storyline, I started thinking that the soul of the Silver Surfer had to be very convoluted and confused, because he was the epitome of good, but he had done such dreadful evil. But it had no effect on him. And so I did a storyline where it was revealed that Galactus had manipulated his very soul. Well, everyone asks me about why I do cosmic stories, and my pat answer is I don't like drawing horses or cars. But the truth of it is that if you get out of Earth and you create your own cosmic venue for these characters to go into, it gives you a lot more possibilities of what you can explore. You can do a physical manifestation of an abstract idea, such as greed, or in the case of the Surfer, guilt. I was actually able to manifest his guilt in a physical way by taking him into this more cosmic environment. This was a point where I wanted to more humanize the character. I wanted to examine the contradictions of the fact that he was so noble, that he had been involved in all these heinous crimes in the past. Basically, I wanted to sort of visualize what his guilt would look like. So when he confronts Galactus, he begins to hallucinate once the manipulations of his soul have been removed, and he is his normal self, so to speak. And these hallucinations included him falling into an ocean of blood that he had helped Galactus spill. It was basically trying to illustrate the darkness that he would have found in his soul once the blinders were taken off. I wanted to humanize him. He was this saint up until that point in many ways. Saints can get boring. He was a tragic figure. I wanted to make him even more tragic, but with a few more facets than he had at that point. And I thought bringing in his actual conscience would have been the way of doing it. My favorite issue of the Silver Surfer run was the issue where we first bring back Drax, and they don't know what to do with him because he's this huge powerhouse who, in this particular incarnation, comes back sort of brain dead, and all he wants to do is watch cartoons on TV, specifically the Elf cartoons. I had a tremendous amount of fun doing this character, this very serious character in the past, and putting on this little comic edge. And he was something that the Silver Surfer very much needed, because it was a very dour story arc I was working on, and we needed Drax in there just to sort of lighten things up.
I think my chief goal with the Surfer was to not screw it up. Jim had had a fairly titanic run on it in terms of what he did and the kind of stories that he told. So I was taking over from Jim Starlin. You know, he's the cosmic guy in comics. You don't get any better than Jim Starlin for telling these kinds of stories. You know, it was good for me to have that kind of safety net initially, and then be able to start telling my own stories after that. I think that one of the best compliments I ever got on the Surfer stuff was that somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, I didn't even know Starlin had stopped writing the story. I just thought he was still around." And I thought, well, I'm probably doing something right then, because Jim's run was fantastic and really kind of redefined the character. I thought if I was following in those footsteps, I was probably doing okay. When I did the Surfer, the stories we told a lot of times ended up in, you know, two guys punching each other. So that was very much, you know, a learned writing style, is that, you know, you had to have some over-the-top action in virtually every issue. The kind of stuff that you couldn't show in a movie at the time. You know, my chief goal was to give the reader something every issue that they hadn't seen before, something that was really visually exciting that they couldn't get anywhere else. But I remember one of the things that my editor told me at the time, this was Craig Anderson, was the first editor that I ever worked for. You know, he said, "You're writing the Surfer, this is like Shakespeare in space. These people love harder, fight harder. They do everything on an operatic scale. So make sure that when you write the book, that everything is on an operatic scale." And I think thankfully we had a lot of crossover material, and we had a lot of stories that tied into the Infinity Gauntlet at the time. So to some extent that sort of was like holding my hand as I got used to this. This was really on-the-job training for me. And since we had these other stories that we had to tie into, I wasn't out on an island, and we were all sort of working towards the same goal. The character that I enjoyed the most was Thanos, because he was to me one of the best Marvel villains ever, because he wasn't a guy that wanted to rob a bank. He wasn't a guy that wanted to take over the country. He wanted to please death with a capital D. That's a motivation way beyond anybody else. And he was a multifaceted character. Obviously, he's a Starlin creation, and if there was anybody I enjoyed writing as much as the Surfer, it was definitely Thanos. One of the things that I found really interesting when I came on the book was that the Surfer is no longer the Herald of Galactus. He's out on his own. He broke away from Galactus because he didn't want to be a party to Galactus eating worlds. You know, he didn't want to be the guy laying out the buffet. The current Herald was Frankie Ray, Nova, who was given that title in the FF stories at the time. And I found it really intriguing that somebody from Earth could be involved in, basically setting the buffet table for this world eater. And I guess I was really intrigued by the fact that here was an alien who had rebelled against his master and didn't want to do that anymore, but yet somebody from Earth, basically a typical Earth woman, said, "Oh, I'll do that. Lead him to worlds we can devour him? Yeah, sign me up for that. So I wanted to deal with that. I wanted to deal with how she was okay with that, how the fact that she was kind of a party to mass murder. You know, I like the dynamic between the surfer and Frankie because in some ways he had more humanity than she did.
You know, one of my frustrations about my run on the book was that I had lots of things that I wanted to do that never quite happened. The big thing I wanted to do was actually do the death of Galactus and play with that. I want to do a cosmic dead man walking, you know, with Galactus having to face what he's done. And all he really wants before he dies, while I'm building up this whole big cosmic epic, it wasn't just Galactus and Silver Surfer talking to each other, you know? But what he really wants is the Silver Surfer's forgiveness. You know what I mean? That's the only soul in the universe that he cares about. Because one thing that was always unstated there was that Galactus on some level cared about the Surfer and respected the Surfer. So the idea that Galactus is going to die and all he wants is the forgiveness of the Silver Surfer before he goes for his sins, you know? I thought it was a great story. But every few months something would happen. You know, it was like all this stuff was going on, so I kept having to adjust my storylines. But you know, what am I gonna, you know? So that's kind of how I felt working on the Silver Surfer. The biggest problem with the Surfer was it was still a superhero comic book. So while he was giving, you know, 30-panel speeches about the futility of violence, he always ended up having to fight somebody and drop a building on their heads. You know? But that's what I respond to in that character. I wrote the book for a short period in the 90s, and George Perez, I think, had wisely brought him back to Earth and established a relationship with Alicia Masters and brought back that surfer and humanity element to it that I think is what really makes the character unique. The cosmic being who comes down to Earth, sees us with different eyes, and yet responds to the inherent decency and humanity despite all the horrible things we do. And that's the tension, I think, that makes the character great.
The Surfer was an interesting character for me because, you know, anything was interesting to me at that point. I was just thrilled to be writing comics. It was, you know, it was like I had been unleashed in the playground, and I could play with anything I wanted to. It was a huge amount of fun, and I guess looking back, I realized all the stuff I didn't know at that point, all the storytelling, all the techniques that I've since, you know, glommed onto and the light has gone on. But, you know, initially it was just that burst of enthusiasm and creativity. You know, I had a ball doing it.
Comics as a medium because it allows you to do anything. We have access to things that the movies don't have, such as what's going on in the heads of the characters. We can stop and play with time much more easily than a movie editor can. We have the advantages of print with also the advantages of a visual media. You know, we're like the first step before you go to a movie. We're in effect a storyboard, but a storyboard that has a lot more avenues of experimentation than any other media has.
Well, my initial reaction to The Surfer was extremely positive. That was the first comic book that I ever bought, Fantastic Four 49, which was right in the middle of the initial Surfer story. And I was so taken by this thing that I'm sure it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm doing comics today.
You know, I guess to me, The Surfer really represents the beginning of my career. To be able to play with one of the classic characters, really in all of comics, not just Marvel. Right out of the gate, I consider myself extremely blessed.
I hate to say it, but you might as well be prepared. I happen to be my biggest fan. When people walk over to me sometime and say, "I'm your biggest fan," I say, "No, you're not."